We also see in men 1,300% increase in testosterone just from somewhere between a 13 to 15 hour fast.
When we look at testosterone in a man, when he fasts 13 to 15 hours, he can raise testosterone by 1,300%. He goes to 20 to 24 hours, he gets that testosterone level up to around 2,000%, according to the science.
2,000%, like it, just forget steroids. We all just need to not eat. That is the answer, clearly. What's up guys, Derek, moreplaysmartdates.com. Today we are reacting to the Miracle Doctor. Get your sex life back, melt belly fat, and heal your injury. Dr. Mindy Pelz, a nutrition and functional medicine expert. So I am not familiar with her content, but presumably a significant amount of vetting was done to deem her the Miracle Doctor. Like, it's a pretty bold title to give to somebody, but if you don't know, the Diary of a CEO is a podcast that features what is, I guess, otherwise regarded in different niches and specialties as like the top, you know, like 0.01% of that field. So when there's entrepreneurs on here, it's typically the most successful of entrepreneurs. If it's, you know, celebrities, it's people who have like significant life experiences and wisdom to impart. If it's doctors, it's people who are specialized or highly regarded. I'm not to say that this individual is not highly accomplished, highly regarded, etc., but just in these short little snippets I watched, like I have not even watched the full thing, there were some statements made about endocrinology specifically that I thought were pretty significant and could sway certain people from into a trajectory of eating habits that are otherwise not founded and supported by literature whatsoever, thinking that they are doing the best thing for their body. So notable is when they get into the research on fasting, she makes some pretty bold statements about androgen synthesis and growth hormone production, and we'll go from there.
Into this fat burning place. So at 8 hours, you start to make the switch. By about 12 hours, your body's now starting to make a good dose of ketones. The brain is excited, so you're getting that mental clarity. Ketones turn off the hunger hormone. Mm-hmm. So you also, when you switch over, there's going to be a point in which you're not hungry. And that all happens at about 12 hours. But you're also, if you stay there a little longer, if you stay there and you go 14 hours, 15 hours. So check this out. Research shows at 15 hours, we see growth hormone go up. Okay, growth hormone is the hormone that keeps you young and helps you burn fat.
Okay, so she's not wrong. Growth hormone does go up. However, I feel like the mechanism and function, why does it go up, is often heavily conflated with anabolic outcomes while simultaneously trying to assert that it has longevity enhancing properties, which is essentially the antithesis of what it's meant for, which we'll get into shortly about why growth hormone would go up in a state of nutrient deprivation, and is this actually helpful for growth, and also the effect fasting has on testosterone. She has a pretty wild claim here that was kind of shocked to hear.
We also see in men 1,300% increase in testosterone just from somewhere between a 13 to 15 hour fast.
Jesus, like that is a huge, like for context, let's just say you naturally produce 800 nanogram per deciliter total testosterone. That would be literally going over 10,000 nanograms per deciliter. That's how much a 1,300% increase would be. Like literally you are producing more than, like for example, the highest dose response relationship study we have in testosterone use in healthy young men, using upwards of 600 milligrams per week, over half a gram. We have individuals getting at 600 milligrams up to, by 4 months in, 2,370 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone level. So literally like over 5 times that. She then goes on to elaborate further about this spike and makes a pretty quick pivot, which I thought was interesting.
13% increase in natural testosterone stores.
So it went from 1,300 literally 2 seconds ago to 13% now. And obviously the difference in 1,300 and 13, I feel like is pretty significant enough to actually highlight which was the correct one. And I understand if you're on a big podcast, you know, maybe nerves get the best of you, or you're just, you know, your mind is racing so much that you don't necessarily think to correct yourself. But Like, that is a bold take on a dieting strategy that is going to heavily influence performance, function, vitality. Individuals who think they are getting a 1,300% increase fasting intentionally to try and maximize their T levels. Like, there is definitely, I would say, a necessity to highlight which of these was the one you meant. But at the end of the day, neither are correct. The 13% was actually her misspeaking. 1,300% is what she has stated multiple times now, recently, apparently. This is her on Mark Hyman MD's podcast 3 weeks ago.
So the longer that you're in a fasted state, the more healing mechanisms show up. So, for example, we can see testosterone raise. We only have, this is another huge elephant in the hormonal room, which is we have a lot of studies on men. We have a lot of studies on men and women. We don't have a lot of studies on women alone. So, but when we look at testosterone in a man, when he fasts 13 to 15 hours, he can raise testosterone by 1,300%.
Like, Jesus. Doubling down hard.
He goes to 20 to 24 hours. He gets that testosterone level up to around 2,000%.
Holy shit. I didn't even know she said that. Wow.
According to the science.
Damn.
Woman, it's going to take her 24 hours to even start to see a little blip of increase in testosterone.
2,000%. Like, fuck it. Just forget steroids. We all just need to not eat. That is the answer, clearly. Now, this isn't the only podcast, too. Again, tripling down. This is 8 days ago on Sean Stevenson podcast. Lose weight with this key switch. Stop eating.
Cycle. In fact, they believe like every 15 minutes you're getting a pulse of testosterone. Testosterone will go up to the brain and convert into estrogen. So when we look at a man's body, all you've got to think about is, okay, let me make testosterone and all the other hormones will come into play. And when we look at fasting, it's 13 hours, 15 hours, you all can get an increase of about a 1,300% increase in testosterone, 24 hours of a fast, and we see a 2,000 increase in testosterone in a man's body.
That's fucking mind-boggling. So if I want to go to 15,000 nanograms per deciliter, I don't need testosterone cypionate. I just need to throw out my fridge. That is the answer here, clearly. I'm sorry if I'm coming across as like condescending or something, but I mean, damn, dude. If you did not know better and you just assume blindly that this is the miracle doctor who will do all of these things, you could very much pivot your, like, I've even changed my diet strategies significantly based on what I've heard in podcasts in the past. Like, oh wow, that made a lot of sense to me. This person is highly regarded. I am going to make a drastic shift. This is the motivation and kick I needed. For her, being put on these, platformed on these big podcasts, I'm not saying that she shouldn't be, but it's like to not have fact checked yourself when I can't imagine somebody wouldn't have said something about this at this point, and maybe no one's fact checked her before she's recorded these podcasts. But I mean, like, I don't know how you could go out and say a statistic as egregious as this without having a citation to support it. Like, there is no literature out there that is even close to within the stratosphere of suggesting this is an outcome that is reasonable to expect. This is a study, reproductive function during fasting in men, even in obese men during short-term fasting. Serum testosterone levels decrease. This is a literature review showing females and the effect of intermittent fasting on reproductive hormone concentrations, T levels decreasing every single time, or free T levels as well. In males, obviously we were talking about males 2 seconds ago, but I felt it was worth mentioning on the female part there as well. Here we have, 4 studies here. Each one found total testosterone levels going down. And we could get into the specifics about, how dramatic the time-restricted eating was and all these things. At the end of the day, you can see pretty consistently testosterone levels go down, free testosterone levels go down, androgen synthesis decreases, thyroid hormone output will decrease, your fertility metrics in general will decline in response to a lack of adequate nutrition. Like, this is just a really logical expected outcome in my opinion. And when we get into the growth hormone stuff, that's where it gets a bit more nuanced, and I can see where things get conflated, but it's worth touching on to really explain the real mechanism and function there. So she claims, you get a spike of growth hormone after fasting, which is not inaccurate. And I'm wondering if she's kind of like over the years accidentally interchanged the two hormones as she's gone on these podcasts or what, because this was a post on her Instagram, 2021, intermittent fasting boosts HGH by up to 1,300%, like a pretty specific percentage to be claiming. for this specific hormone to be increasing, and then 2 years later to be saying it's testosterone that goes up 1,300%, I can't help but think over time she has just got it jumbled up and is now saying testosterone repeatedly on podcasts. But anyways, one of the main issues that I see often is these anecdotes get highlighted as some sort of significant benefit, both from a longevity standpoint, but also from a fat burning standpoint, also from a anabolic standpoint, like all of the attributes of growth hormone that may otherwise be totally irrelevant in the context in which it's spiking are being claimed to be yielded via, fasting, which is not the case. When growth hormone increases, it doesn't necessarily dictate that you get downstream growth factor production that is going to have proliferative type effects. Rather, it may otherwise just be the indirect consequence of ghrelin receptor agonism, which is something that would be dictated by just being hungry as hell because you've been not eating. Or it may otherwise be the lipolytic actions whereby your body is literally liberating free fatty acids into circulation to actually support activity and physiologic functions and whatnot, because you do not have any nutrients being ingested, and it is trying to preserve actual metabolically active and useful tissue. So rather than just breaking down muscle and waiting for you to eat food, it is going to start liberating free fatty acids, at which point you would utilize those, hopefully. And that is why you become acutely insulin resistant when you inject exogenous GH2. Like, this is kind of the seesaw effect of insulin, GH. And when you have GH going up as a response to not eating and fasting, it is not necessarily mediating an anabolic outcome. Rather, it is literally liberating energy into circulation to be utilized, as well as a hunger response. Like, there's a reason why people use MK677 or GHRP6, GHRP2, ipamorelin. Like, some of these ghrelin receptor agonists make you hungry for a reason, but also spike your growth hormone quite significantly through this receptor interaction. But it doesn't necessarily mean when your body is endogenously doing it that your IGF-1 goes up and you get all of these growth factors that lead to muscle growth and whatnot. This is something that is two segregated activities that can happen as a full cascade, but aren't necessarily the case if you are fasting and depriving the shit out of yourself. So for example, this study here, augmented growth hormone secretory burst frequency and amplitude mediate enhanced GH secretion during a 2-day fast in normal men. This study often gets highlighted for the effect fasting has on the spikes in growth hormone, and big proponents of fasting will use this as a way to encourage individuals to do fasting, not only for the anti-aging benefits, the longevity enhancing benefits, but then they'll conflate the GH spikes with, oh, this is so much fat burning, this is so much anabolic activity going on. And it couldn't be further from the truth, because you cannot have your cake and eat it too when it comes to actions in the body. You can't be depriving the shit out of yourself but also being like bodybuilding. It's like two opposite goals being accomplished at the same time is what people who are a little bit too myopic about their views in the fasting literature, they really like to highlight anecdotes that don't have actual contextual support, in my opinion. And it's fine that they don't dig deeper, I guess, but I mean, when you present it in a fashion that is misleading and can lead to people dieting in a way that is totally contrary to their goals, like if you're trying to build muscle and get as jacked as possible and improve your body composition outcomes, depriving the shit out of yourself is not necessarily the most conducive way to do it. And yeah, if you want to burn fat and, improve your body composition through means of losing weight, and you have a lot of weight to lose, and there are other things you can accomplish through fasting, like I do think it is an actual useful strategy for some people, but it is not to be conflated with something that will help you achieve bodybuilding outcomes. It will be literally body, not degrading, but it's like losing weight in general is the outcome that should be sought by fasting, not building of tissue. Like, that's just a logical conclusion. And so how can you justify, the GH spike as not anabolic when that is like literally the thing that, pushes you through bone growth, maturity, etc. as a teenager? Well, the growth hormone spike doesn't necessarily mediate the growth factor conversion downstream that you would get in a insulinogenic environment that has all of the other cofactors and downstream cascade requirements met. So this is, another study that I thought was worth mentioning because it often gets highlighted too by the fasting community in terms of, GH spiking during fasting. Boom, massive spike. And this is, I think, where the 1300% claim comes from on day 5. Look at this shit, fucking massive, bro. However, what do we actually see in IGF-1 levels, binding protein levels? We see the real full picture here. In both mice and humans, fasting for 2 or 5 days respectively causes an over 50% decrease in IGF-1, a 30% or more decrease in glucose, and a 5 to 10-fold increase in the IGF-1 binding protein and inhibitor, IGF-1 BP1. So having a binding protein spike into the stratosphere, having your IGF-1 levels decline significantly, these things are representative of the real downstream actions and what your body is doing at a functional level in response to nutrient deprivation. You will have the liberation of free fatty acids. However, that growth hormone level is not mediating a spike in IGF-1, and your binding protein levels are dramatically spiking to actually bind up active IGF-1 too, to prevent anabolic outcomes and things that would be proliferative. Fasting is going to be conducive for cell cleanup, I guess is, the way to summarize what the goal is of depriving the shit out of yourself. I'm not necessarily, I keep saying depriving the shit out of yourself like it's a bad thing, but like I fast, I think I mentioned already many times before that I intermittent fast quite often, more for the cognitive enhancement, I would say. I am definitely more clear when I'm fasting, and I have implemented 24-hour fast before, but it has never been in the context of trying to build muscle or get like superior body recomping in a anabolic context. Like, sure, I've tried to lose fat at an expedited rate by depriving myself of more nutrients than would otherwise be required to lose at a slower rate or, maintain where I'm at. But the outcome you're seeking should never be dictated by fasting is the end all be all for fat burning, muscle growth, anti-aging, longevity. Like, you are not going to hit 4 birds with 1 stone, essentially, when you do this stuff. Some of her claims are a little bit wild and have not been fact-checked seemingly. They are repeated quite frequently, seemingly, on large platforms, and I think it should be known, you will not enhance your androgen output by fasting. And your body has counteracting regulatory mechanisms to keep you in check. If you are depriving yourself, not only are you going to have a decline in the synthesis of these hormones, similar to the IGF-1 binding protein, you are going to have a spike in SHBG. Binding proteins will elevate to actually further inhibit the actual bioactive activity of the hormones present. So not only are you going to get a decrease in the synthesis of the hormones, the actual ability for them to interact with receptors and impart actual, gene transcription, that is not going to be, the potential of it is dramatically hindered to keep your body in a conservation, like hibernation type state when you are not feeding it correctly. So that is what should be expected by fasting. Testosterone levels will decrease, not increase. And you are certainly not going to get benefits to the magnitude of multiple fold that of like Olympia level fucking steroid cycles. So take from that what you will. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacesmartdates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplacesmartdates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, including my preventative medicine platform, where you can get connected with high quality medical providers who understand this stuff in even further depth, get actual high quality diagnostics that can be interpreted accordingly by those staying on top of the cutting edge when it comes to the most recent literature on endocrinology, pharmacology, biology, and the interactions of all of them, and how to maximize and optimize your quality of life, performance, vitality, fertility metrics, etc. So you can check that out if you're interested in optimization in any capacity, and also just improving your health metrics, because that is our primary passion. And just getting a baseline panel, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. If I was to be 21 years old again, I would love for somebody to have gifted me a comprehensive blood test and have that baseline for if something went awry in the future. Even though I was a totally healthy 21-year-old, having that baseline could give you metrics that you could cross-reference to actually assess where something went awry and why. And you could also identify some outlier genetic predispositions that you may otherwise go decades without knowing you had until they reared their ugly head through a cardiac event or something of that nature that is far worse, because this stuff will manifest itself in very, very early stage life and build up over time. Like if you have, familial hypercholesterolemia, you could find that out right away if you were young and on top of your shit. So I would recommend a blood panel at minimum for basically anyone. You can check it out if you're interested, and anything else I'm associated with, it's all down there. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.